Hi, my name is Nina Fountain. I'm a workplace strategist at Transform.Teams, and today we're talking about leadership skills for leaders of flexible and remote teams. We're in a real normal of uncertainty at this point in time, and potentially as a leader, you're thinking about the usual challenges of managing your team, plus remote work, flexible work, a hybrid week, potentially reconsidering how you use the space in your office and other options around that. So there's a number of new and exciting challenges, and I'll tell you why I think there's a real opportunity for us in a minute. And I guess there's a real need to see the importance of communication, which is closely tied to performance, almost like a Siamese twin type connection. And if we look at failure to meet targets, often in a business, there's a lack of communication around purpose, strategy, clarity of outcomes, responsibilities, and what success measures are, what good looks like. So our failure to meet targets can be very closely related to communication. Then we've got this ability to frustrate our employees. We might not think about it like that, but that frustration when they don't understand what's going on, when they can't access their peers, or when they're not getting enough information about context and developments, and that becomes a real risk in remote and flexible teams. Dealing with change means we need to inspire people, motivate them, bring them on board with a journey where we're getting off the island and going somewhere different. And often that ability to communicate organisational change is challenging in and of itself. But then you throw in new platforms, you throw in people working at different times and in different places, and getting it right can become even more important and challenging. And then how do we have these difficult conversations, the sensitive topics, the situations that can build bridges or burn them, can either kind of make or break a relationship. And so we know that there's a real need to focus on these and to get it right. But remote and flexible teams kind of adds a whole new level of challenge into the mix, and it's not just the fact that we're not co-located. It's technology challenges, it's visibility of who's doing what, it's the way we organize things, it's the type of communication that we use. So I've always been fascinated by the link between communication and business, between our ability to get things done and the way we communicate. I spent 4 years studying the science of communication, so I guess you could say I'm a bit of a junkie on this. And this is one of the things that I think probably the strongest thing, I think one other thing, that really drew me to this particular area of consulting, training, and leadership development in flexible and remote teams. And that's the absolutely integral role that communication plays in getting this right. So George Bernard Shaw probably was onto something when he said that the biggest problem we have with communication is the illusion that it has taken place at all. In fact, there's so much uncertainty around it, complexity, and it's a problem that we need to really get our heads around, and we don't always get it perfectly right. But what can we start to do to get this right in flexible and remote teams? I'm going to give you a few really core ideas and flesh out for you why they are key. Give you a couple of practical tips around that as well. So firstly, we need to be sure we speak the same language. And one of the areas to focus on with this is your definition of outcomes. So I would ask myself, if I was in your shoes, I often talk with leaders and managers and suggest that we get super clear on what is the definition of good, what does success look like, and have a process in your business for defining success. In Transform Teams, we call that the lens. And so that is a specific process that people go through with each new piece of work to get super clear on what good looks like, what failure looks like is often an important reflection, the balancing concept that helps to define good. Then our sharing of information couldn't be more important. So in the previous way of working, the co-located, let's call that the traditional pre-COVID kind of 20th century model of co-located working, that might sound a little, I don't know, I hope I haven't offended anyone with that, but I think the world has been moving towards remoteness, and now we're just really seeing that starting to take up. So yeah, that transparency couldn't be more important. And I guess I've got a demonstration here. So I once worked with a project manager who went to great lengths to hide key information and obscure important developments on the project. And it wasn't exactly clear to me why, but I think that she was uncertain in her role, to be honest. So she needed to hold back some of that information. Knowledge is power. But people were left struggling. They were swirling around, having conversations with each other for weeks on end, wondering who was making decisions, because they didn't even know whether these decisions were being addressed. And then on the other hand, I once spent time with a change team who spent a similar amount of time, about 5 weeks, in a different way. They brought all the important people into the room. They had meeting once a week about an important change that needed to happen. And everyone across the business was able to ask key questions and just discuss the situation and get their heads around why this change was needed. And it was described as change without doing change. And when you think that change is, there's all kinds of stats you can find that reinforce this approximate statistic. If it's only successful about 30% of the time, and it really says something about the power of bringing people in and of sharing information with them. And I could talk at length about transparency and why it's absolutely key for other reasons in remote and flexible teams as well. But often we don't share that level of information because we don't trust people. So we need to examine that, and trust is the currency of getting things done in our flexible and remote teams. That open, honest communication goes a long way towards it, but also sharing our intentions and being consistent in the way that we communicate with each other. And sometimes the reason that trust is poor is because culture has been affected. So culture is a really key concept that no doubt you've heard in all kinds of places and locations. The way that people collaborate, the way they communicate is, since if they're working 100% remotely, or if they're working 80% or 60%, 50% remotely, all kinds of variations are in there. But that core skill that they have, the way that they see their business, the way that they understand the normal, the new normal, the way we work around here, it's kind of it can be a hard thing to define that looks different in different cultures, different places, but that you need to have a cooperation really built into that. So it doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen if you put the effort into it. So with all of those pieces, those moving parts, and those are just a few highlight concepts, we've pulled together key insights into, I've pulled it together into a team communication audit, so that you would be able to understand and get key insights into how well communication is working in your team and whether that's impacting performance. So the idea of this is that it's your first step towards really enjoying that measurable productivity benefit. We get, I regularly get increases of 10% at least in engagement measures, productivity improvements in well-being, etc. That you would be able to adjust and thrive in a rapidly changing workplace, and economise your people costs through effective remote and flexible work without cutting back on performance. So the way to take this up, if you're interested, is to take up a discovery call and see how you can engage with us on that. So the first thing is a 30-minute call with you. let's talk, find out a little bit more about your business, and I can fill you in on what the audit involves. It doesn't involve a lot of your time, it just involves a little bit of your team's time, and then we'll be able to get those results to you so you get your insights into where your team needs to improve. And I really look forward to talking with you and making your business a success as you move forward into a greater uptake of flexible and remote work. Talk with you soon.